I stood in my father's study holding two wills in my hands. One left me nothing, the other left me everything. The problem? I didn't know which one was real. My stepbrother stood in the doorway, his hand moving towards something in his jacket pocket. "Put those down, Claire. You were never supposed to find that." "Which will did you forge, Derek? The one that gives you everything, or the one hidden in Dad's safe?" He pulled out a gun. "Does it matter? You're not leaving this room either way." My name is Claire Montgomery, and this is the story of how I discovered my stepbrother forged our father's will to steal my $500 million inheritance. How I risked everything to find the truth, and how a hidden document changed everything in one dramatic courtroom moment. The lawyer's office smelled like old leather and expensive cologne. I sat across from Derek Turner, my stepbrother, waiting for our father's will to be read. William Montgomery had died 2 weeks ago. Sudden heart attack at 68. No warning. One moment he was playing golf, the next he was gone. He'd left behind a fortune. Montgomery Tech Industries, worth approximately $500 million. Real estate across 3 continents. Art collections, investment portfolios. The accumulation of a lifetime building a tech empire from nothing. And now Derek and I would find out how he divided it. "Thank you both for coming," Gerald Hutchins said. He was my father's attorney of 30 years, gray-haired and solemn. "I know this is difficult. William was a good man and a dear friend." Derek nodded, looking appropriately sad. He was 35, handsome in that privileged way. Expensive suit, perfect hair, the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. "Let's proceed with the will reading," Gerald continued, opening a leather folder. "I, William Montgomery, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament, superseding all previous wills and codicils." My heart was pounding. Dad and I had been close. Closer than he'd ever been with Derek. Dad had adopted me when he married my mother 20 years ago. Raised me as his own, paid for my education, walked me down the aisle at my wedding. Derek, on the other hand, was his biological son from his first marriage. But they'd never been close. Derek had been arrested for drug possession at 22, embezzled from the company at 28, been bailed out of scandals more times than I could count. Dad loved him because he was his son, but he didn't trust him. To my beloved daughter, Claire Montgomery Fisher, I leave my personal effects, my art collection, and the sum of $2 million. $2 million out of a $500 million estate. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. To my son, Derek Turner, I leave Montgomery Tech Industries, all associated assets, real estate holdings, and investment portfolios. Total estimated value, $498 million. Derek tried to look surprised, but I saw the smile he couldn't quite hide. I make this distribution because Derek has finally proven himself ready to lead the company I built. He has matured, taken responsibility, and shown the business acumen necessary to carry on my legacy. Claire, while I love you dearly, you have chosen a life outside the business world, and I respect that choice. I hope you understand this decision comes from a place of love and respect for both of you. The reading continued with minor bequests to staff and charities, but I barely heard it. $2 million, less than 0.5% of the estate. Something was wrong. That's it, Gerald said finally. The will is clear and legally binding. Derek, you'll need to schedule a meeting to discuss transition of company leadership. Claire, I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you expected. I found my voice. Can I see the will? The actual document? Of course. Gerald handed it to me. I studied it carefully. My father's signature at the bottom. Dated 3 months ago. Witnessed by 2 people I didn't recognize. Everything looked legitimate, but it was wrong. All wrong. After the meeting, Derek caught up with me in the parking lot. Claire, I know you're upset. Upset? Derek, Dad left you everything and gave me almost nothing. Yes, I'm upset. He explained it in the will. You're married. You have your own life. I'm taking over the company. It makes sense. It makes no sense. Dad knew you embezzled from the company. He knew about your drug arrests, your DUIs, your gambling debts. He would never leave you in charge of everything. Derek's friendly expression cooled. That's the old me. I've changed. Dad recognized that. Maybe you should too. I don't believe it. Something's wrong with that will. Are you accusing me of something? I'm saying Dad would never cut me out like this. He wouldn't. Derek stepped closer, his voice dropping. Listen carefully, Claire. That will is legal and binding. Dad left me the company. You got $2 million. That's generous considering you're not even his biological daughter. The words stung. He adopted me, legally. I am his daughter. Legally, sure, but blood is blood, and Dad finally remembered that. He smiled coldly. Enjoy your $2 million, sis. That's all you're getting. He walked to his Mercedes and drove away, leaving me standing in the parking lot, shaking with anger. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the will, about my father's alleged words. Derek has finally proven himself ready. No. Dad had said the opposite just 2 months ago. We'd had lunch together. He'd been worried about Derek's gambling again. Mentioned that Derek had asked for a $200,000 loan to cover debts. I'm not giving it to him, Dad had said. He needs to face consequences for once. I've enabled him too long. What about the company? I'd asked. Will he inherit it? God, no. Derek would run it into the ground in a year. I'm leaving the company in a trust with professional management. You'll oversee it, make sure it continues my legacy. Derek will get income from it, but not control. I'd asked him to put that in writing. He'd smiled and said, already done. Updated my will last month. Last month. 4 months ago. But the will Gerald read was dated 3 months ago. So where was the will Dad had told me about? The one where I oversaw the company? The next morning, I went to my father's house. It was a mansion in Greenwich, Connecticut. 20 rooms, 10 acres, staff quarters. I had a key. I'd grown up in this house. Derek had already moved in. His car was in the driveway when I arrived. I let myself in through the side entrance, hoping to avoid him. Claire, what are you doing here? Derek appeared at the top of the stairs, looking annoyed. I wanted to get some of Dad's personal effects. The will said I inherit them. Fine, take what you want, but make it quick. I'm having the place cleared out next week. I went to my father's study, the room where he'd spent most of his time, where he'd worked on his business, where we'd had our deepest conversations. The room was already being packed up. Boxes everywhere. Dad's desk cleared off. What are you doing? I demanded. Cleaning, like I said, clearing the place out. If there's something specific you want, take it now. I looked around the room. Dad's leather chair, his favorite books, the photo of us together when I graduated from Harvard, and then I noticed something. Dad's safe, hidden behind a false panel in the bookshelf. I knew about it. He'd shown me years ago, told me the combination in case of emergency. Derek didn't know about it. How could he? Dad had never trusted him with secrets. I'll take the photo, I said, removing it from the wall. And some of his books. Whatever, just hurry up. Derek left the room. I waited until I heard his footsteps recede, then quickly went to the bookshelf. I found the hidden panel, entered the combination, Joe 4-17-86. My birthday. The safe opened. Inside were documents, stock certificates, some jewelry. And at the bottom, a leather folder labeled Last Will and Testament, William Montgomery. My hands shook as I opened it. I, William Montgomery, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament, superseding all previous wills and codicils. The same opening as the will Gerald had read. But then, to my beloved daughter Claire Montgomery Fisher, I leave Montgomery Tech Industries in trust, with Claire serving as trustee and chairwoman of the board. The trust shall provide income to my son, Derek Turner, of $500,000 annually, but no direct control of company operations. There it was, the will Dad had told me about, dated 4 months ago. 1 month before the will Gerald read. But this will had Dad's signature, witnesses, everything legal. So which will was real? Find something interesting? I spun around. Derek stood in the doorway, his expression dark. There are 2 wills, I said. This one leaves me in control of the company, dated 1 month before the will Gerald read. Let me see that. He moved toward me. I clutched the will to my chest. No, I'm taking this to Gerald. We need to determine which one is authentic. Claire, give me the will. Why? So you can destroy it? Derek's friendly mask finally dropped completely. You want to know the truth? Fine. Dad wrote that will 4 months ago. I convinced him to change it. The will Gerald read is the real one, the current one. You're lying. Am I? Or are you just desperate to believe Dad wanted you to have the company? If the will Gerald read is legitimate, why did Dad keep this one in his safe? Why not destroy it? Because he was sentimental. Couldn't throw away something with his signature on it. But trust me, the new will supersedes it. I moved toward the door, but Derek blocked my path. You're not taking that will anywhere. Get out of my way. Give me the will, Claire. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I tried to push past him. He grabbed my arm hard enough to hurt. Let go of me. We struggled. The will fell from my hands. Derek lunged for it. I got there first, snatching it up and running from the room. Claire, get back here! I ran through the house, out the side door to my car. Derek was right behind me, but I reached my car first, locked the doors, and sped away. In my rearview mirror, I saw Derek standing in the driveway, his face twisted with rage. I'd found the smoking gun. Now I just had to prove which will was real and which one was forged. I took both wills to a forensic document examiner, Dr. Patricia Walsh, one of the best in the country. She examined them for 3 hours while I waited, drinking terrible coffee and trying not to panic. Finally, she called me into her office. Ms. Fisher, I have my findings. Which one is real? That's complicated. Both wills have characteristics consistent with authentic documents. Your father's signature appears genuine on both. The paper is consistent with standard legal document stock. The formatting is proper. But one has to be forged. Not necessarily. It's possible your father signed both wills, the earlier one you found, and then later changed his mind and signed the newer one. No. He told me 2 months ago he'd updated his will to put me in charge of the company. He wouldn't have changed it after that. Dr. Walsh hesitated. There is one anomaly. What? The ink on the newer will, the one dated 3 months ago, is slightly different from your father's typical signature ink. He consistently used a Mont Blanc fountain pen with blue-black ink. The signature on the newer will uses blue-black ink, but the chemical composition is slightly different. It could be from a different pen. Or it could be forged. Possibly, but I can't state that definitively without more analysis. What I can say is that the signature on the older will, the one giving you the company, is definitely your father's. I'd stake my reputation on it. And the newer will. The signature is very, very good if it's a forgery, but there are microscopic hesitations in the pen strokes that suggest tracing or careful copying, rather than natural writing. Again, I can't be definitive, but if I had to bet, I'd say the newer will's signature was forged. My heart was racing. Can you testify to that in court? I can testify to the ink discrepancy and the pen stroke anomalies. A jury would have to decide if that constitutes proof of forgery. That's good enough. Thank you. I left with Dr. Walsh's report and both wills, my mind racing. If Derek forged the newer will, he'd committed fraud on a massive scale. But how could I prove it? I needed more evidence. I hired a private investigator, ex-FBI agent named Marcus Rivera. I gave him everything I knew. Your stepbrother has motive, means, and opportunity, Marcus said after reviewing the files. He needed money to cover gambling debts. He had access to your father's documents, and he was at your father's house frequently in the months before his death. Can you find proof he forged the will? I can try, but I need to know. Are you prepared for what we might find? What do you mean? Marcus looked uncomfortable. If your stepbrother forged the will, he had to have access to your father's signature. There are clean ways to do that, tracing from existing documents. But there are also less clean ways. A chill went down my spine. You think Derek might have hurt my father? Your father died of a sudden heart attack, but there are drugs that can cause cardiac arrest and are hard to detect in autopsy. If Derek was desperate enough to forge a will for $500 million, he'd be desperate enough to kill. I'm not saying he did. I'm saying we should consider all possibilities. I felt sick. Derek was selfish and greedy, but murder? Our father? Investigate everything, I said. I need to know the truth. Marcus worked for 2 weeks. What he found was damning. Your stepbrother has gambling debts totaling $2.3 million to some very dangerous people. Loan sharks, organized crime connections, people who don't accept "I'll pay you when my dad dies" as an excuse. He needed money immediately. Exactly. 3 months before your father died, Derek made a payment of $200,000 to one of these creditors. I traced the money. It came from a short-term loan Derek took out using your father's house as collateral, without your father's knowledge. That's fraud. It gets worse. I found a connection between Derek and a man named Thomas Reed. Reed is a professional forger who specializes in legal documents. He's been arrested twice, served time once. You think Derek hired him to forge the will? I think it's very likely. Reed's bank records show a deposit of $50,000 3 months ago, right when your father's new will was allegedly signed. The money came from an offshore account registered to a shell company. I'm still tracking it, but I'd bet everything it leads back to Derek. That's not enough for a criminal case, though, is it? No, it's circumstantial, but combined with the forensic document analysis, it might be enough for a civil case. To challenge the will in probate court. Then that's what we'll do. Marcus hesitated. There's one more thing. Your father's autopsy was routine. Heart attack. But I requested the toxicology reports. There were trace amounts of a drug called digoxin in his system. What's digoxin? Heart medication. In therapeutic doses, it helps certain heart conditions. In high doses, it causes cardiac arrest. Your father wasn't prescribed digoxin. He shouldn't have had any in his system. Someone poisoned him. Maybe. Or he had an undiagnosed condition and was self-medicating. Or someone gave him an overdose to trigger a heart attack that would look natural. Derek. I don't have proof. The digoxin levels were low enough that the medical examiner didn't flag them as suspicious. But combined with everything else, I felt like I was drowning. My father murdered. My inheritance stolen. My stepbrother a killer. What do we do? We challenge the will in probate court. We present the forensic evidence, the financial motive, the connection to Thomas Reed. We force Derek to defend his will in front of a judge. And we see if he cracks under pressure. I filed a petition to contest the will the next day. Derek responded within hours. He showed up at my house at midnight, pounding on the door. Claire, open the door! My husband Michael tried to stop me from answering, but I knew Derek wouldn't leave until we talked. I opened the door. Derek pushed his way inside, furious. What the hell are you doing? Challenging the will? Are you insane? The will is forged. I have proof. You have nothing. Some bullshit about ink analysis? That won't hold up in court. Then why are you here? If you're so confident, why are you worried? Derek stepped closer, his face twisted with rage. I'm worried because you're about to embarrass this family with ridiculous accusations. Dad left me the company because I deserved it. Accept it and move on. You forged his signature. You hired Thomas Reed to do it. I have evidence of the $50,000 payment. Derek's face went pale. I don't know who that is. Liar. I know about your gambling debts, about the loan sharks, about the $200,000 you stole using Dad's house as collateral. You needed money fast and Dad wouldn't give it to you. So you forged a will leaving you everything. Prove it. I will, in court. Derek grabbed my arm, squeezing hard enough to make me gasp. Michael stepped forward, but Derek ignored him. Listen to me very carefully. Drop this. Drop the challenge. Take your $2 million and disappear. Because if you don't, I will destroy you. I'll drag your name through the mud. I'll find every mistake you ever made and broadcast it. I'll make your life hell. Let go of me. I'm serious, Claire. You don't want to go to war with me. Michael finally intervened, pulling Derek's hand off my arm. Get out of our house, now, before I call the police. Derek smiled coldly. Fine. But remember I warned you, Claire. Whatever happens next is your fault. He left, slamming the door behind him. Michael immediately called the police to report the threat. They took a statement but said there wasn't much they could do without evidence of an actual crime. He'll try something, I said. He's desperate. Then we protect ourselves. I'm hiring security. And you're not going anywhere alone. I should have listened to him more carefully. 3 days later, someone tried to kill me. I was driving home from a meeting with my lawyer. The road was empty, a back road through a wooded area. A truck came up behind me fast, headlights blinding in my rearview mirror. Then it rammed into me. The impact threw me forward against my seatbelt. My car swerved, tires squealing. The truck rammed me again, harder this time. My car spun out, careening toward a tree. I yanked the wheel, barely avoiding the collision. The car skidded off the road, crashing through brush and slamming into a ditch. The airbag deployed, hitting me in the face. Pain exploded through my nose. Through my cracked windshield, I saw the truck stopped on the road above me. A figure got out, started walking toward my car. I fumbled for my phone. Dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? Someone ran me off the road. I need help. Route 52. Mile marker? The figure was getting closer. I could see him now. A large man in dark clothing, face covered by a ski mask. Ma'am, stay on the line. Help is on the way. The man reached my car, tried the door, locked. He pulled out something, a tire iron. Started smashing my window. I screamed. The sound of sirens in the distance. The man heard them too. He looked up, then back at me. Then he ran, disappearing into the woods. The police arrived minutes later, but they didn't find him. At the hospital, the police questioned me while a doctor examined my injuries. Broken nose, whiplash, bruised ribs, but alive. Did you see the driver? The detective asked. He wore a ski mask, but I know who sent him. My stepbrother, Derek Turner. We're in a legal battle over my father's will. He threatened me 3 days ago. We'll question him. But Ms. Fisher, unless you can identify the driver, it'll be hard to prove your stepbrother's involvement. Then find the truck. There has to be evidence. They found the truck 2 days later, burned out in an abandoned lot. No fingerprints, no DNA, no way to trace it to Derek. But I knew. He'd tried to kill me to stop the will challenge, which meant he was guilty and desperate. While I was recovering, Marcus continued investigating. I found something, he said, visiting me at home. Your stepbrother made a mistake. What? The shell company he used to pay Thomas Reed, he thought it was untraceable. But I followed the money trail. The company is registered in the Cayman Islands, but the bank account used to fund it is in Delaware. And the signatory on that account is Derek Turner. That's proof he paid Reed. It's strong evidence, but we still need to prove Reed forged the will. I'm working on that. How? Reed is a professional forger. He keeps samples of his work. It's his portfolio, how he advertises to potential clients. If I can get access to his files, I might find evidence of your father's forged signature. Can you do that legally? Marcus smiled. Let me worry about that. 3 days later, Marcus called me with news. I have it. Thomas Reed's portfolio, including a practice sheet with your father's signature. Dated 2 weeks before your father allegedly signed the newer will. That's proof of forgery. Better than that, Reed kept notes on the job. Client name, DT payment, $50K. Task, duplicate signature for legal document. He even noted the type of ink to use, blue-black, Mont Blanc compatible. How did you get this? Reed was arrested last week for an unrelated forgery. His apartment was searched. I have a contact in the police department who gave me access to certain files before they're officially cataloged. Is that legal? It's admissible as evidence obtained during a lawful search. Whether my contact should have shown it to me is a different question. But what matters is we have it. I felt tears of relief. This proves Derek forged the will. It proves Thomas Reed forged a signature for someone with the initials DT. We'll need to connect the dots for a jury. But yes, combined with everything else, this is strong evidence. When's the court date? 2 weeks. Your lawyer is filing a motion to admit this new evidence. And I'd recommend requesting police protection. Derek isn't going to take this well. Derek heard about the new evidence within days. His lawyers tried to have it excluded, but the judge denied the motion. The will contest would move forward, with all evidence presented. Derek called me one last time. Claire, please, let's settle this. I'll give you $50 million. $50 million cash right now. You drop the challenge and we both walk away. No. That's 10% of the estate. More money than you'll ever need. It's not about the money, Derek. It's about the truth. You forged Dad's will. You stole his company. And I think you killed him. Silence on the other end of the line. Then, you can't prove that. Maybe not criminally, but in civil court, I only need to prove it's more likely than not. And I can do that. Your gambling debts, the payment to Thomas Reed, the forged signature, Dad's unexplained digoxin levels, it all points to you. I loved my father. You loved his money. There's a difference. If you do this, if you testify in court about these insane theories, I'll sue you for defamation. I'll take everything you have. Try it. I've got nothing to lose. You took it all already. Derek hung up. That night, he tried to flee the country. Airport security stopped him at JFK trying to board a flight to Brazil with $2 million in cash and a fake passport. He was arrested on the spot. The probate hearing was held in Connecticut Superior Court, Judge Margaret Chen presiding. I sat at the petitioner's table with my lawyer, Elizabeth Warren, no relation to the senator. Derek sat across the aisle with his legal team, 3 high-priced attorneys from Manhattan. He'd been released on bail after his airport arrest, but he looked terrible. Unshaven, exhausted, desperate. This court is convened to hear the matter of the estate of William Montgomery, Judge Chen announced. Ms. Fisher, you've challenged the will filed by Mr. Turner. Present your case. Elizabeth stood. Your Honor, we will demonstrate that the will filed by Mr. Turner is a forgery, that he hired a professional forger to create a false document, leaving him the entirety of Mr. Montgomery's $500 million estate, and that he did so to cover massive gambling debts and defraud the rightful beneficiary, his stepsister, Claire Fisher. That's a serious accusation. I hope you have evidence. We do, Your Honor. Elizabeth called our first witness, Dr. Patricia Walsh, the forensic document examiner. Dr. Walsh explained her analysis in detail. The ink discrepancy, the hesitation marks in the signature, the microscopic differences between the authentic older will and the suspicious newer will. In my professional opinion, the signature on the will dated 3 months ago was not written naturally. It shows characteristics consistent with tracing or careful copying. Derek's attorney, James Morrison, cross-examined aggressively. Dr. Walsh, have you ever seen a case where 2 signatures from the same person showed ink variations? Yes, people do sometimes use different pens. And hesitation marks. Couldn't those be from an elderly man with unsteady hands? Mr. Montgomery was 68 and in excellent health. His earlier signatures show no tremor. But it's possible. Possible, yes, but unlikely given... Thank you, no further questions. Elizabeth called Marcus next. He testified about Derek's gambling debts, the payment to Thomas Reed, the shell company used to hide the transaction. I found direct evidence connecting Mr. Turner to Thomas Reed, a known forger with a payment of $50,000 made approximately 1 week before the alleged new will was signed. Objection, Morrison stood. This is circumstantial. There's no proof Mr. Turner paid for forgery services. I have Mr. Reed's notes, Marcus said. Client DT task. Duplicate signature for legal document. The timing and amount match exactly. Where did you obtain these notes? Morrison demanded. They were seized during a police search of Mr. Reed's residence following his arrest for unrelated crimes. Your Honor, this evidence should be excluded. It's fruit of an illegal search of my client's private... Mr. Reed's residence was searched, not your client's, Judge Chen interrupted. The evidence is admissible. Continue. Elizabeth then called our surprise witness, Thomas Reed himself. Reed had been offered immunity in exchange for his testimony. He took the stand nervously. Mr. Reed, do you know Derek Turner? Yes. How? He hired me 3 months ago to forge a signature. The courtroom erupted. Judge Chen banged her gavel. Order. Mr. Reed, explain exactly what you were hired to do. Derek Turner contacted me through an intermediary, said he needed a signature duplicated on a legal document, showed me samples of William Montgomery's signature, paid me $50,000 to create a perfect copy on a new will document. Did you ask why? No, that's not my business. I'm hired to forge signatures. I don't ask questions. Did you know William Montgomery was Mr. Turner's father? Not at the time. I found out later when I saw news about his death and the will. Derek's face was bright red. Morrison tried to discredit Reed on cross-examination, pointing out his criminal record, his immunity deal, his motive to lie. But the damage was done. Elizabeth called one final witness, Gerald Hutchins, my father's longtime attorney. Mr. Hutchins, you read the will leaving everything to Derek Turner. Did anything about that will strike you as unusual? Gerald looked uncomfortable. Yes, William and I had discussed his estate plan many times. He was adamant that Claire would oversee the company. He said Derek wasn't trustworthy with large sums of money. Did Mr. Montgomery ever tell you he'd changed his mind? No. When the newer will arrived at my office, I was surprised. But the signature appeared genuine, and the witnesses confirmed they'd been present. I had no reason to question it at the time. Who delivered the will to your office? Derek Turner. Did you find that unusual? Somewhat. William usually hand-delivered important documents himself or sent them by courier. But he'd been unwell, so I assumed Derek was helping. Mr. Hutchins, in your professional opinion, is the older will found in William Montgomery's safe, the one leaving the company to Claire, consistent with what William Montgomery told you he wanted? Yes, absolutely. That will reflects everything William discussed with me over the past 2 years. Morrison tried to rehabilitate on cross-examination, but Gerald was rock solid. After 2 days of testimony, Judge Chen called a recess. I was leaving the courthouse when Derek cornered me in the hallway. This isn't over, he hissed. You think you've won? I have appeals. You have nothing. You're going to prison, Derek, for forgery, for fraud, and when the police investigate Dad's death properly, for murder. I didn't kill him. You gave him digoxin. You induced a heart attack. You murdered our father for his money. I loved my father. You loved what he could give you, and when he wouldn't give it, you took it. You forged his will. You stole his company, and I think you killed him to make sure he couldn't expose you. Derek grabbed my shoulders, shaking me. You don't know anything. Security pulled him off. His lawyers rushed over, damage control in full effect. But I'd seen it in his eyes. Guilt, desperation, fear. He knew he was caught. That night, Derek disappeared. His lawyers called to say he hadn't shown up for a strategy meeting. His apartment was empty. His car was gone. The police issued a warrant for his arrest. He'd violated bail conditions by fleeing. They found him 3 days later at a motel in Pennsylvania, drunk and incoherent with a loaded gun. He was arrested and held without bail pending the probate hearing conclusion and potential criminal charges. Judge Chen reconvened court 1 week later. I've reviewed all evidence and testimony. This is not a criminal proceeding, so the standard of proof is preponderance of the evidence. More likely than not. I held my breath. Based on the forensic analysis, the financial evidence, and Mr. Reed's testimony, I find it more likely than not that the will dated 3 months ago, leaving the estate to Derek Turner, was forged. Derek's face went white. Furthermore, I find the older will, found in William Montgomery's safe and leaving control of Montgomery Tech Industries to Claire Fisher, to be the authentic final wishes of the deceased. Therefore, I invalidate the newer will and recognize the older will as controlling. The estate shall be distributed according to its terms. The courtroom erupted. Elizabeth hugged me. Michael was crying. Judge Chen banged her gavel. Additionally, I'm referring this matter to the District Attorney's Office for Criminal Prosecution. The evidence suggests Mr. Turner committed forgery, fraud, and possibly murder. That will be for a criminal court to decide. This court finds in favor of the petitioner. Estate distribution shall proceed under the authentic will. We're adjourned. Derek was led out in handcuffs. As he passed me, he looked at me with pure hatred. This isn't over, he muttered. Yes, it is, I said. You lost. Dad won. Truth won. Derek was charged with forgery, fraud, conspiracy, and after further investigation into my father's death, murder in the second degree. The evidence of digoxin poisoning, combined with Derek's financial motive and the forged will, was enough for prosecutors to charge him with causing my father's fatal heart attack. His trial was set for 6 months later. 18 months after my father's death, I finally took control of Montgomery Tech Industries. The company had suffered during the legal battle, stock prices dropped, major clients left, employees were demoralized. But I was determined to restore Dad's legacy. I hired new management, implemented Dad's strategic plans that Derek had ignored, focused on innovation rather than short-term profits. Within a year, the company was thriving again. Derek's criminal trial concluded with guilty verdicts on all counts. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison for murder, with additional consecutive sentences for forgery and fraud. He'll be eligible for parole when he's 65. Maybe. The $500,000 annual income Dad had designated for Derek in the authentic will? I donated it to charity in Dad's name. Derek would get nothing. 2 years after Dad's death, I visited his grave. I did it, Dad. I saved your company. I exposed Derek. I got justice. I placed flowers on the headstone. White roses, his favorite. I wish you'd told me what Derek was capable of. I wish you'd protected yourself better. But I understand why you gave him chances. He was your son. You loved him despite everything. I loved you too, and I made sure your real wishes were honored. The company is safe. Your legacy is secure. Thank you for believing in me, for trusting me with everything you built. I won't let you down. I stayed there for an hour, talking to Dad like he was still alive, telling him about company milestones, about new products we were developing, about how his employees still talked about his vision. Finally, I stood to leave. Rest easy, Dad. Derek can't hurt anyone anymore, and I'll take care of everything from here. 5 years after Dad's death, Montgomery Tech Industries was worth $800 million, 60% more than when I inherited it. We developed breakthrough technologies in artificial intelligence and renewable energy, created thousands of jobs, become a model for ethical corporate leadership. I'd kept Dad's best practices while modernizing his approach, maintained his commitment to innovation while adding transparency and employee empowerment. The company he built was thriving. His legacy was secure. Derek remained in prison, having lost all his appeals. He'd sent me letters over the years, some apologetic, some angry, some delusional. I never responded. There was nothing left to say. He'd chosen greed over family, fraud over honesty, murder over patience, and he'd lost everything. I thought about the day I'd found Dad's real will in his safe, how close I'd come to accepting Derek's forgery, how easily the truth could have been buried forever. But Dad had left me clues. The safe with my birthday as the combination, the leather folder clearly labeled. He'd known I'd look for it. Maybe he'd suspected what Derek might do. Maybe he'd prepared for that possibility. Or maybe he just trusted me to fight for the truth. Either way, I'd honored his faith in me. On the 5th anniversary of Dad's death, the company held a memorial ceremony. Employees shared memories. Board members discussed his vision. I gave a speech about his legacy. William Montgomery built this company on a foundation of innovation, integrity, and respect for people. He believed business should make the world better, not just make people richer. Some people saw his wealth and thought only of what they could take from him. They saw dollar signs where he saw responsibility. They saw an inheritance to steal where he saw a legacy to protect. But Dad knew that what we build matters more than what we accumulate. That who we are matters more than what we own. That integrity matters more than profit. He left me this company not because I was perfect, but because he trusted me to care about the right things, to value people over money, to choose truth over comfort. And every day I try to live up to that trust, to honor not just his memory, but his values, to build the kind of company he'd be proud of. Thank you, Dad, for everything. Your legacy lives on. That night, I found an old video Dad had recorded years ago. It was a message he'd made in case anything happens to me. A digital goodbye. I'd watched it dozens of times, but tonight I noticed something new. At the end, after saying goodbye to me and Michael and reminiscing about our life together, Dad looked directly into the camera and said, "Claire, if you're watching this, I'm gone. And if there's any question about my wishes, any dispute about who should run my company, look in the safe. Your birthday. I've left you everything you need. I trust you to do the right thing. Not the easy thing, not the comfortable thing, but the right thing. That's who you are. That's why I chose you. Derek is my son and I love him, but he's not ready for this responsibility. Maybe he never will be. I hope he finds his own path, but my path, our path, ends with you. Take care of the company. Take care of our people. Take care of my legacy. I know you will. I love you, Claire. Always have. Always will." The video ended. I sat in the darkness crying. Not from grief anymore, but from gratitude. Dad had known. He'd prepared. He'd trusted me with the truth and given me the tools to find it. And I'd done what he asked. I'd fought for justice. I'd exposed the fraud. I'd saved his legacy. Derek had tried to steal everything, but in the end, he'd lost it all. Because truth always wins. Eventually, if someone is brave enough to fight for it. This is Claire Montgomery Fisher, reminding you that not all thieves use guns. Some use forged signatures. My stepbrother Derek tried to steal my $500 million inheritance by forging our father's will. He hired a professional forger, created fake documents, and almost got away with it. But he made mistakes, left a trail, underestimated my determination to find the truth. And most importantly, my father had prepared for this possibility. He'd hidden his real will where only I would find it, with my birthday as the combination to his safe. If this story resonated with you, like and subscribe for more stories about inheritance fraud, family betrayal, and the fight for justice. Leave a comment. Have you ever dealt with will disputes? What red flags should people watch for? How can families protect themselves from inheritance theft? Remember, if a will seems wrong, if it contradicts what you know about someone's wishes, investigate. Get forensic analysis. Hire experts. Don't give up just because documents look legitimate. Forgeries can be incredibly convincing, but they always leave traces. Ink discrepancies, pen stroke patterns, financial trails. The truth is out there. You just have to be brave enough to find it.